My name is Ryan Spencer. I'm the Executive Director of Comal Conservation, and I want to just simply start by saying how grateful I am for all of you. 2026 is here. 2025 was one heck of a year, man. Can I get a round of applause for that? That was a fantastic year for conservation, and we've set our sights high in 2026, and we're getting started early. So thank you for being here at the first community program of the year. I want to take a quick moment and have all my board members in the audience and up here raise their hands real quick and wave them proudly. These round of applause to the board members, man. They are the hardest working board in Texas when it comes to conservation, and I am just so grateful for their efforts. They mean a lot to me. And we were at our board meeting just the other day, and every year I give them a book to read. And so if you're following along and you're interested in going on that journey with the board, this year they're reading Last Child in the Woods by Rich Lube. It's a book that talks about nature deficit disorder and the increasing gap between our children and the natural world. And so it's just a really fascinating read, and I'm grateful for all of their efforts. I also want to give a shout out to the Cookie Queen herself in the back for bringing the snacks. Leslie Day, thank you so much. I also want to thank Brandy and Scott. Brandy's in the back working our merch table with Jenny. Round of applause for her. And Scott, of course, is our videographer who's videotaping everything tonight. So if you ask a question, you're going to end up on YouTube. So just remember that. A few quick announcements before we kick things off. We have a landowner workshop, the first of 3 happening this month. It's going to be at the Fisher Store Schoolhouse in Fisher, Texas on January 30th. 6 p.m. To 8 p.m. You can find the details on our website, and it's really important that you RSVP to that event because it's a small schoolhouse. I don't know if y'all remember the single-room schools, but that's what they had out there in Fisher. So you definitely want to make sure you sign up for your spot. We're also partnering with Green Spaces Alliance and the Hill Country Alliance for a Dark Skies Star Party on February 7th. It's going to be at the Bulverde Oaks Nature Center on February 7th at 6 p.m. Super awesome. How many of y'all are astronomers? Anybody look at the stars? Got one in the back. I was gifted a telescope last year by my wife for my birthday, and it's awesome right now. The stars are super cool. I don't know if y'all follow moonrises, but they're getting later and later and later right now. And so you can see cool things like the clouds of Jupiter, the rings of Saturn. You can see far away, deep sky objects. It's really, really neat. So I encourage you to go out there. I'm going to be there with my telescope, so if you want to see it, you're more than welcome to hang out and we can look at the stars. Also, I want to mention next month we're going to have our Comal Conservation Live Music Social. It's the first of the year for us in terms of the music socials, and it's a great opportunity for y'all to hang out with your conservation friends, learn more about our work, and just have a really good time. So stay tuned to our website for all the details on that. With that, I want to turn it over to my Vice President, Heather Harrison. Let's give her a round of applause. She's a wonderful human being. She's going to introduce our speaker tonight.
Thank you, Ryan. Well, I have the distinct privilege and pleasure of serving on 2 boards. One is Comal Conservation, and the other is W.O.R.D of Comal County. And in my mind, there's considerable overlap, because I think that protecting our water and our land, water, and wildlife has a direct correlation to recreation and vice versa. And so I'm really excited that, and that's just the short of it, I'm really excited that the couple of folks from W.O.R.D are here tonight. I'm going to specifically introduce Mike Dusayer, and he'll introduce his folks, Wes and Dylan. But I want to tell you a little bit about, I kind of want to read you something that Ryan wrote about W.O.R.D, just so in case you don't know, or if you're not familiar with what exactly W.O.R.D does. Created by the legislature in 1987 and approved by the voters in Comal County in 1988, that's when W.O.R.D was started, and way back in the 80s. Mike's been with the agency since 2006, and the chief aim of W.O.R.D is to improve the environment and welfare of the district by conserving natural resources, improving public health, promoting water safety, and operating public parks, which is a slightly newer addition since 2020. But it's been a really important mission of ours at W.O.R.D to improve and maintain public access to lakes and rivers. So W.O.R.D provides resources that help visitors plan their trips, increase safety on the water, supports conservation efforts, and raises awareness about the value of the river in general. This is something that Ryan said about Mike, and I want to share it because I don't want it to go away. But when he first met Mike, he said he was so impressed with the dedication of his staff and his commitment to walking the walk. And he knew there would be a lot of opportunities for partnerships. And I see the same. You know, one of the things that I appreciate the most about serving on both of these boards is the staff, the expert staff that I get to work with and support. So I want to share one more quick thing, and I'm going to read a little bit about Mike. So I've always worked in or supported in some ways in hobbyism or some part of my career. I've worked my entire career in water conservation, resource management, river recreation, and Mike has always been an icon in Comal County of that. For 20 years, he's been an icon. The district encompasses over 30 miles of Guadalupe River and all of Canyon Lake. It is one of the busiest water recreation areas in the country. W.O.R.D has both taxation and lawmaking authority, which was part of what its founding. We're actually an agency in, I'm going to get it wrong. We're a governmental agency, but not independent. We work alongside Comal County.
We are a
State-created agency. I always get it wrong. I didn't want to. It's a little more tricky than it sounds. But we do collect user fees, and some folks refer to them as taxes. But we have permit holders who pay taxes and support the operation. Mike will talk a little bit more about that. But we use that money to provide law enforcement, cleanup, and other services on and around the waterways. And then also we have a mandate to operate parks. I'm sure Mike and his great team will talk more about that, especially Dylan. Mike holds a master's degree in business administration. He serves a lot. He isn't just general manager of W.O.R.D. He really believes in supporting the community. So he's done a lot of other things, including serving as president of the United Way of Comal County, president of the Comal County Child Welfare Board. He's currently, you're really vice president? You got stuck with that? He just stepped into serving on CRRC of Canyon Lakes Board and stepped right into the vice president position. So congratulations and thank you. They do great work out there too. Founder and past chair of the South Texas Water Safety Coalition, founder of Keep Canyon Lake Beautiful, and a member of the New Braunfels Chamber of Commerce Strategy and Steering Committee, and many other things. Mike has also been named as an unsung hero, now known as Pillars, and has received commendations from the Army Corps of Engineers, School District, Sheriff's Department, and Friends for Rivers. So please join me in giving him great gratitude for his 20 years of service and launching into the future as well. Without further ado, Mike Ducer.
Okay, well, thank you all very much. Unfortunately, Heather has just given my entire presentation in bio, so I'll take any questions and see if I can now. I think I can talk a little bit. I'll tell you that I love talking about W.O.R.D for a couple of reasons. The main one is that W.O.R.D is a governmental entity, but there is basically zero red tape. I deal with federal and state agencies on a pretty regular basis, and the amount of time it takes sometimes to get things to completion is ridiculous. At W.O.R.D, kind of my saying is, if it comes into the office, my staff passes it through. If they need to, up to my desk, we either make a decision and move on it, or we explain why we can't. There's not, we're going to sit on it for a year and then give you an answer that's no good. So I love that. I love that about W.O.R.D. Heather did end up stealing a lot of my intro, though. So we were created in the late 80s. In the 80s, Comal County was seeing a huge increase in visitation to the lake and river. Tourists were kind of flocking to the area. We were seeing things go a little nuts. And a group of people much smarter than I'll ever be got together and said, hey, why don't we create a district, a special district, where the tourists pay for the services that are needed because tourists are here. Before that point, the county's general fund, which is all y'all's taxes, was going towards things like cleanup and law enforcement on the river and lake. So they petitioned the legislature, came back with a bill, became a law, and went to the voters of Comal County as a whole to vote on whether or not to implement a W.O.R.D district. They voted it in, and the rest is history. We do issue permits to businesses that benefit from water recreation in some way and tourism. That includes river outfitters, marinas, lake equipment rentals, camping, lodging, fishing guides, boat storage, anything kind of associated. And then they add a W.O.R.D tax on top of whatever they would charge their customers to their customers, collect it, and remit it on a quarterly basis to us. When I started in 2006, our average annual tax revenue was about $500,000. My 2025 budget was $4.5 million. The vast majority of the taxes that we collect, over 70%, go to two things: cleanup and law enforcement. Those are the two things that are most needed when you have an influx of people into an area. Unfortunately, not everyone behaves themselves, and we need the law enforcement out there. Unfortunately, they leave behind trash sometimes, so we need to clean up there. And we're going to get into a lot more detail on this later. Okay. So, as Heather talked about, this is the Guadalupe River. This is actually the horseshoe on FM 306 as you enter into Canyon Lake. So what it looks like pretty much every Saturday. Canyon Lake itself, beautiful lake. As more and more people come in, we see more and more growth and more businesses popping up. We currently have just shy of 700 permit holding businesses that collect and remit W.O.R.D tax on those categories that I listed earlier. It says last summer, unfortunately I stole this from an old presentation. I'll be the first to admit plagiarism. It was my presentation, but still, last summer was not all that busy comparatively, but after COVID, 21, 22, 23 were just pure insanity. So I talked about how we spend most of our money on law enforcement, safety, health, and sanitation. We have contracts with every law enforcement agency in this county to be out patrolling in the summer, fire EMS, and we have 10 specific litter cleanup contracts that Wes is going to go into some detail on later. And I just realized I do like to jump around. I like to go off the cuff a little bit, so apologize for that. But I never introduced these two over here. I brought my right and left hand with me today. Dylan Merle is my parks manager, and Wes Walker is my operations manager. That's all you're getting. We also do expend funds on community development, grants that we provide to first responder agencies, nonprofits, etc. We have a scholarship program for high school students that have to submit projects that go along with our mission. And we are getting more and more into events and community programming throughout the district and at our parks, such as Fun Fish, which is probably the single largest free kids fishing event in the country. I think we maxed out some years back at 3,000 people. Nature hikes, movie nights, yoga, and a lot more. I want to talk specifically, I'm giving a general overview, and then I'm going to rely on the people who do the real work to actually talk about their fields. But some of the things that we spend tax dollars on: flood cleanup. We are in flash flood alley. The river and the lake take a beating when it does come in. And this is just one small picture. I can tell you I was here in 2010, for those of you who remember that flash flood. It built as it went downriver, got worse and worse as it came into New Braunfels. We spent a couple $100,000 in a matter of weeks just on trash pickup, roll-off dumpsters, things of that nature. We did design and implement the first flood siren system in this county in 2010. Since we have turned that system over to the county, and they are constantly making improvements to it. So good job to the county commissioners hiding in the back. We also do drought cleanup. If there's a silver lining to the drought that we are in, It is that the Canyon Lake shoreline is exposed in areas that have not been seen since the early 60s. So in the last 2 years, we have had contract crews walk the entire 85-mile shoreline of Canyon Lake from the 909-foot elevation point to the current water level 5 times. We have gotten thousands of tires and many, many roll-off dumpsters full of trash. And I could put up so many trash pictures that you would all kick me out of here. It's just my hard drive is full of them. I'm very proud of the mesh bag program, which we didn't bring bags today. We forgot to grab it. Yeah, it's all good. We implemented a program. Has anyone seen the yellow or red mesh bags lying around? Does anyone know why they're mesh and not like solid trash bags?
They don't hold water.
Right? So you can tie them to your canoe, your tube, your raft, your boat, whatever. Water flows through them, trash does not. We have 2 models, one for the parks, which are red, and one for the river and lake, which is yellow. The reason they're differentiated is the yellow has the river and lake laws that we have passed right on them. We have passed laws banning glass, styrofoam, and open plastic containers of 5 ounces or less. Anyone want to take a crack at that one? Rusty? Jello shots. And I'll tell everyone that it is TABC's job to enforce the liquor laws in this state. This is a litter ordinance because we find those little souffle cups, those plastic by the thousands. The messaging on the bags is both English and Spanish. We're looking to add QR code signage next year to go straight to our website and our app. And I am so happy that Parks and Wildlife and the Corps of Engineers have seen the use of these bags and have started implementing in their facilities within Comal County as well. So we have consistent messaging going across. We also have the My Backyard program, which provides free trash grabbers and mesh bags to anyone that wants them. The idea being that people are out walking their dog, taking their morning walk, they see a piece of trash, they pick it up, then they see another piece of trash and they don't have room for it. So they just come by the office and get those for free. There they are, my favorite bags. The picture on your right, actually all these pictures are at the Horseshoe, which is the single heaviest recreation concentration in the summer on the Guadalupe, at least on the stretch from Canyon Lake to New Braunfels. We started before we started handing out these bags. I had 2 of these white barrels at the exit to the Horseshoe, and I had to empty them maybe a couple times a weekend through our contract crews. After we started handing these out and making every outfitter hand them out to every single group that goes on the river, we had to go to a total of 15 and had to station a contract crew on Saturdays that their only job was to empty those barrels. So that's how much trash we're diverting from the river to where it should be. So this is the label on our mesh bags here in the bottom center. But I want to talk about my snark signage campaign. So this is something that we came up with. I actually stole it from the internet years ago from someone in some other place that I saw. But then we designed our own list. We have 5 different signs, and they're up all over the district at access points, along with our mesh bag stations, where if we don't have personnel in place, people can get their own trash bag before they get on the water. And yes, my therapist did say it was okay. That being said, I'd like to turn things over to Wes Walker, who is going to bore you to tears. No, he's really good at his job, and he doesn't talk too much, I promise.
That's a lie. Well, I want to start this off. About 6 months ago, some random person walked into the office and was asking questions about our trash cleanup. And somebody in the office told them that I'm the one that managed the department that's in charge of all of that. I didn't know this at the time, and I walked by and she goes, "Are you the trash man?" Well, yeah, I am the trash man. This is what we do. We pick up trash and we're proud of it. So Mike talked about cleanup contracts. What are cleanup contracts? We have 10 of them. Those contracts go along all of the 30 miles of the Guadalupe River in Comal County. We like to say that we clean up all 30 miles multiple times a week. Not multiple times a year, not multiple times a summer. I mean all 30 miles multiple times a week. We have roadside contracts all throughout our district. Those contracts are sometimes roads that I get to pick and choose and say, oh, this one looks dirty. And some of them are roads that we clean routinely every week, such as River Road. This last year, we collected trash on 749 miles of roadsides within the district. If you're curious what that looks like on a map, that's like driving from here to Wichita, Kansas. I don't know where Wichita, Kansas is, but that's what the internet said. It sounded far away, so we're going to go with that. My personal favorite contracts are those, but then we have our lake contracts. Our lake contracts are on all of the county-managed boat ramps on Canyon Lake. We also have contracts at highly recreated areas such as Overlook Park near the dam and various other places on top of all of that. We pick up a lot of trash, as you can see on those two pictures. And like Mike said, if you look at any of our folders in our computers, they're full of trash pictures. And we could talk all day about that. And here's just a quick little graphic of what these contracts actually produce as far as trash goes. This is just for the summer of, well, not 25, summer of 2024, so 2 summers ago. As you can see, quite a bit of trash actually comes from the river. Mike just talked about barrels on the river and how much trash we get from those. That is actually where the majority of a lot of our trash comes from, as you can see on the graph in the middle there. Next slide. Okay, there's not a lot of pictures on this one, but let's talk about health and sanitation. I'll explain. That's dumpsters and porta potties. So we have dumpsters and porta potties stationed all throughout the district, along the river, at the boat ramps, and as well as other highly recreated areas within our jurisdiction. So we have dumpsters pretty much in every boat ramp, porta potty at every boat ramp when the boat ramps are open, and then especially in areas like the Horseshoe. Mike mentioned earlier that the Horseshoe is one of the busiest places within our district. It really is. About 60 to 65% of all tubing happens on that 1 to 2 mile stretch of the river. Years back, we started hiring seasonal staff. Those folks are called the street teams or environmental educators. They have probably the coolest and most fun summer job you can think of. Okay, so we have these kids stationed at busy areas such as the Horseshoe. Their job is essentially making sure that the general public and tourists are aware of all of the W.O.R.D ordinances, litter ordinances, and the reason that we have these ordinances to begin with. They have all sorts of bags that they hand out, prizes, and they educate the general public on, why we have laws against bringing glass in the river, or why we have laws against styrofoam. On top of that, we also take those folks to Junior Deputy Academy every summer. That is a fun event that we run with the Sheriff's Office, and we do a water safety seminar teaching 5th graders how to wear life jackets and be safe on the water. It's a whole lot of fun. That middle picture, you can see the interns and myself in the process of teaching those kids. It looks like we're attacking them. I swear we're not. Slide. And of course, one of the most important things that W.O.R.D manages is our law enforcement and safety contracts. We have contracts with the Comal County Sheriff's Office, Comal County Constables, and of course, fire and EMS. We have deputies along the river enforcing litter ordinances and making sure that everybody's following the rules and being safe. On top of that, we have 2 law enforcement vessels that patrol Canyon Lake every single weekend and holiday, as well as 2 other law enforcement jet skis. We also have a fire EMS boat that patrols Canyon Lake every weekend and every summer holiday, as well making sure that Canyon Lake is as safe as we can make it. And with that, we have fire EMS ambulances stationed at various places throughout the district, such as River Road, and if we need, we can also have them up in the Spring Branch area along the upper Guadalupe. And on top of all of that, we also have roving law enforcement patrols that can enforce litter laws and respond to areas where we might need law enforcement presence, such as boat ramps on a busy summer holiday.
Is that all set? I think it is.
Thank you, Wes. So I started off today talking about public access a little bit. We believe strongly, and of course it's a law, that the public has a paramount right to access the public waters of the state. To that end, there's a lot of what we do that kind of goes that direction. We do operate Nichols Landing on the upper Guadalupe River. It's a small riverside park and launch area. It's when I first started with W.O.R.D in 2006, the board of directors on my first day came in and dropped a really thick folder on my desk and said, here's Nichols Landing, fix this. I said, okay. We learned a little bit about it. We started putting an attendant out there and controlling some of the behavior that was going on, and it's a lot better now than it used to be, so I'm quite proud of that. Also, the horseshoe Wes has talked about, it is the busiest single point within the district. We spend a lot of time managing the horseshoe. It's TxDOT property, but we are the agency that provides all the trash cleanup, all of the law enforcement, all of the emergency response, and staffing between our environmental educators and Wes and his staff. So during the summer, it's not unusual for our teams to be working 7 days a week, something that I'd hate to admit in front of members of my board of directors because they yell at me about that, but that's the job. I mean, you get a holiday weekend, Memorial Day, 4th of July, and that's all you have time for is to try and step in and manage it. At basically every other public access point on the river and lake, Canyon Lake, Lower Guadalupe, down to New Braunfels, and the lake itself. We provide cleanup services, trash bags, litter barrels, whatever's needed, and roving law enforcement. And finally, one of our missions is to operate parks within the district. It's not something that we got into until relatively recently. I'd like to introduce and turn over my Parks Director, Dylan.
All right, well, hello everybody. As Mike was talking about, currently we operate 2 parks on Canyon Lake. There are 7 total parks on the lake. The 2 that we operate currently are Comal Park and Canyon Park. Comal Park is much smaller and is located on the south side of Canyon Lake, and it's 116 acres of shoreline, and we opened that park from March through October. When the Corps operated these parks, they had a 6-month operating window, but the first thing the W.O.R.D Board of Directors did underneath our management was make that an 8-month operating window so that everybody in the community had somewhere to go and recreate during those months. Canyon Park is 485 acres. It's a beast, it's a monster, it's really big, and it's the biggest peninsula out in the middle of the lake. This is on the north shore of Canyon Lake, and this park is also open March through October, normally. However, this year, with current lake level conditions, it's kind of thrown us a little bit of a curveball. Boat ramp 18 is located inside of Canyon Park, and it's one of the few only remaining open boat ramps on the lake. So W.O.R.D recognizes this, and we wanted to give the community at least an option to get on the water and recreate. So we extended our operating season, and it's until further notice. So right now it's looking like it'll probably remain open all the way until we reopen for our normal season come March 1st. So we're super happy that Canyon Park does have a boat ramp option for people, as it's very important for recreation on Canyon Lake. So these parks that we operate, they are Corps of Engineers properties. Since W.O.R.D is a governmental entity, and in our mission statement, it allows us to operate public parks within the district. We took over Comal Park back in 2020. This was the year that COVID started, so that was an interesting year. And then in 2021, we took over Canyon Park. And currently, we're actually looking at our third park on Canyon Lake, but that lease is still pending. That would be Cranes Mill. If we were not to lease these parklands from the Army Corps of Engineers due to federal funding cuts, unfortunately, those parks would probably be closed to the public. So W.O.R.D stepped in and signed these 25-year lease agreements to ensure that the public still had right to access those parts of Canyon Lake for as long as we're able to. Cranes Mill, same concept. It is not currently open to the public. It's only an overnight camping park. Our plan is to take over that park and form a hybrid model between RV as well as day use. So this facility will then be open to the public, and you won't have to have a reservation to come into Cranes Mill right away. So we're super happy to provide that opportunity for the public to come out and recreate. Kind of like Mike talked about, since we took over parks, W.O.R.D has officially split into basically two sides of the office. You have W.O.R.D operations, and then you have W.O.R.D parks. While W.O.R.D operations are funded by taxpayer funds and user fees, the Parks Department and our parks are they're designed to be revenue neutral, which means that all of the revenue that we collect at the front gate per entrance fees gets turned right back into the park to improve the park and better the park. So that's definitely one advantage that we have compared to the Corps. They rely solely on their federal funding, but we kind of control ours a little bit better based on our entry fees at the parks. This also allows us to keep people in the areas that they're supposed to be in. Since Canyon Lake and the river are such a tourist hotspot, unfortunately, if you don't give people some place to go, they're going to end up hanging out under bridges or trespassing on somebody else's property, so on and so forth. So we are definitely proud of the fact that we allow an affordable recreation option for people to come out and have fun with their families outside, kind of get in tune with nature. So in the parks, I know Mike and Wes touched on it a lot, talking about the cleanup efforts. That's one thing that we're definitely proud to say too, is we keep staff in our parks 7 days a week. Every single day they're out there working hard to make sure that the park facilities are clean. We're picking up trash after our park visitors, so on and so forth. When the Corps managed these parks, they had cleanup contractors come out 1 time per week, and unfortunately that really wasn't enough. So like Mike touched on, the drought conditions right now are kind of a blessing and a curse, depending how you look at it. They're definitely a blessing because we're able to get our staff in the parks and on the shoreline of Canyon Lake and have them cleaner than they've ever been before. The bottles and the trash that we're pulling up off the lake bottom, they have dates on the bottom of them, and a lot of them are back from the 60s. So it's pretty interesting, and we're definitely proud to say that we keep these parks as clean as possible. The other thing we're able to do with W.O.R.D's management of these parks is to provide safety services such as law enforcement and EMS as well. We have a really great relationship with the constable's office, and we station them in our parks on every weekend day throughout the summertime. It's come in really handy, and we've had a couple of close calls with some visitors, but having law enforcement and first responders in the park able to respond to emergencies right away has actually been life-saving in multiple occasions now. So we're definitely proud to say that we're keeping people as safe as possible out there as well and providing them the services that they're going to need. We keep AEDs on site in our parks as well, and we also have implemented a life jacket loaner station program, which means anybody who needs a life jacket in the parks, they just got to go up and borrow one. They're hanging all through the parks, and last summer specifically, there were many times where it looks like a sea of orange out in the shoreline and out in the water. We got all the kids strapped up in our orange life vests, and it's really great to see everybody recreate safely. So something else really cool that we were able to do over at Canyon Park back in 2022 is we partnered with the wonderful Texas Master Naturalists Lindheimer chapter. There is at least one representative here from that group. What we did is Mike gave us the project of saying, hey, I want you to build a pollinator garden in this 1950s old space. It used to be an Army Corps of Engineers radar station, the Lorraine station. And in that 90,000 square foot space, we built a butterfly-shaped walking path that's full of native plants. So we also have a path there that's the Lindheimer Loop, as we call it, which is in honor of Ferdinand Lindheimer, who is the father of Texas botany. The garden includes a gazebo, a free little library. It has a bird blind and some benches and a few other features that were built by local scouting groups. So it's really cool to be able to partner with those groups and bring something that the public can access 24/7. This is right off of the Madrone Trail. If you've never checked it out, I definitely encourage you to go and see it sometimes. It's completely free for the public, and it's open every day. One point I'd like to mention with the pollinator garden is that it's been mentioned to me that this is one of the only places where you can see a really good example of natural restoration without predation. So what that means is we had to design and build a gate that was basically predator-proof or deer-proof, but still let people in with full access 24/7. So, Susan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've done that fairly successfully, right?
You know what, we should have taken out some sort of claim to that, because it's very effective and people have made note of it. It does
Patent
work.
pending.
It does work. Exactly.
Patent pending.
Exactly.
So this has been a really cool project, and obviously this one is still going to take many years to really come to its full fruition here, but this has been an awesome project, and it's really cool to be able to provide people the opportunity to come out and see all the native plants.
So I'm going to talk a little bit more, but what I find in most presentations when I'm talking about W.O.R.D is that the vast majority of people have no idea what W.O.R.D is, and so I like to take lots of time for questions. Plus, Ryan promised me that I'd only have to speak for about 45 minutes, and I've totally hit that mark. So, we also do education and outreach. Keep Canyon Lake Beautiful was actually a project that I assigned to an intern back in, I think, 2009. It was her first day on the job, and she wanted some intern projects to list for school, and I said, okay, I want you to go out and make me a Keep Texas Beautiful affiliate and make it fantastic. And she absolutely did, to the point that after we got it up and running, got its own nonprofit status, its own 501c3, and its own board of directors, and W.O.R.D was able to step out of the picture, although we still fund it. She came back and served on that board of directors in her professional life. So it was really good affiliate, and just a shout out, W.O.R.D and KCLB did win the Canyon Lake Christmas Parade, best float all around, thanks to these two. They also won the Governor's Community Achievement Awards a couple of years ago and received $210,000 highway improvement beautification. And so you may have seen some of the metal art sculptures that have gone up on textile roadways up in Canyon Lake. I talked earlier about community events. We've gone from one community event 4 years ago to now I have a slate of 27 sitting on my desk for 2026. Really going great guns, and the board has been generous enough to fund that effort so that we can continue putting on great things for the community. Talked about the street teams. That's another aspect of our education outreach. Partnerships and workshops, of which today is a great example. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Ryan last year, I believe it was, for the first time, after trying to get together for about 6 months and playing email tag. And we talked about some great things to come in the future, as far as W.O.R.D and conservation going forward. Environmental initiatives. Heather is also the chair of our planning committee, and we have some fantastic initiatives on our 1-year and long-range plan, as far as environmental stewardship, anti-litter programs, and more. So, that being said, you may ask any questions you like of any of the three of us, and if I run screaming out of the room, you ask the wrong question.
All right, who's first? You guys have questions? All right, we come to you.
Oh, not a microphone.
You don't have to use it.
I've got a
right,
nice
Chris.
loud voice. Because I drive into Canyon Park like every other day, it seems like. The beach over there, at what point is it going to be public access again? Because I get that question a lot being up in the garden.
So if I'm not mistaken, I believe we closed that beach following this Saturday after July 4th about 3 years ago. 2 years ago. I apologize. So it's been closed for about 2 years, obviously because of lake conditions and lake levels. We worked really hard to push all of our park visitors into Canyon Park, which had a much better product to offer our park visitors than Swim Beach 1. Everybody goes to the water, and with current conditions and the lake bottom conditions there, it's pretty muddy. And so we couldn't really be proud of that product, charging people money to come in and access that area. Instead, we really encouraged everybody to go into Canyon Park and access those shorelines areas, which are much rockier, much more firm bottom, which allow people to have a much better experience down there in the water. So as far as when that will be back open, we did do some work down there this past year, kind of preparing for it to reopen. All it takes is a little bit of a lake rise, and since that area is so gradual, a foot of lake rise can bring you 10, 15, 20 feet of shoreline in some areas. So that area is ready to go. As soon as the lake starts to rise, then we have plans to have that back open for the public to access again.
Thank you.
Follow-up question. Can we talk about some other things that we did this last year to improve access to the water, to the shoreline, and also other amenities in the parks?
Sure. So, unfortunately, we do operate parks that, well, not unfortunately, fortunately, we do operate parks that are on the shoreline of the lake, but we've learned that 95% of our park visitors, they're coming to get wet. They want to come to the water in the summertime, and they're there because the lake is there. So kind of the mentality and the motto we went with was, I can't do anything about the conditions of the lake and where the lake level sits compared to our parking areas and how far you're going to have to walk to get to the water, but I can provide you the best experience once you get there. So we did lots of improvements on access paths, just trying to ensure that people could have a safe way to get up and down the lake bottom. Some of these areas are kind of sheer cliffs, so it's been a challenge trying to kind of plan where people are going to set up, where they're going to hang out and recreate, and kind of utilizing new areas of the park has also been a challenge for us. But on top of that, we're focusing too on non-water-based amenities, and we're building those throughout our parks so that we give people an option once they get there. If they don't want to walk all the way out to the shoreline and the water, then we still have other things for you to do and enjoy yourself while you're at the parks.
And the dogs.
We've also implemented a temporary and portable, we'll call it, easy dock structure, which we've turned into a fishing pier. Since the lake level does fluctuate, obviously, we're about 20 feet below where it should be right now, so we have to be prepared to have that infrastructure move back to the 909 lake level. So it's all temporary and portable. But we've put a fishing pier in at Canyon Park, and we've done the same thing with we call it the water bridge, which is a floating walkway connecting two of the areas in Canyon Park. Since it connects kind of cove to cove, the inside area of that floating structure is our swimming hole, where people like to go and enjoy and recreate in the summertime. Does that cover everything? Heather?
Yes.
Very good.
Stacy has a question.
This isn't probably a fair question, and it's not your responsibility, but I drive over the horseshoe every day. What is going on with the construction? Do you know?
Well, let me tell you, we've been dealing with the same problem. So essentially, what's going on right now is TxDOT is in the process, the early stages and process of doing work on the whole stretch of 306, and where that really begins, as far as our concern goes, is at the horseshoe. Traditionally, the two bridges along the horseshoe had a pedestrian walkway attached to that bridge. Well, TxDOT is in the process of building a whole new separate bridge dedicated solely to pedestrians. And so that has been the work that they have been chipping away at since September of 2024. I wish that I could say that event or that construction moved a little faster, but it didn't. It unfortunately took a little bit longer than what we had hoped. And so this previous summer, we spent a considerable amount of time making sure that the public could still access the river through the horseshoe and access it safely, despite the fact that there was construction in the surrounding area. What I will say, though, is that those pedestrian bridges are almost done, and if I were a betting man, I would say that we will have a finished product here, hopefully within a month or two.
Thank you.
Got one over here? We'll go to.
I'll just add to that real quick and say that was started in September 24, and we were actually one of the local cost share partners towards that project. And the reason we did that was to build in a timeline so that it would not impact this amount of time. That project was slated to be completed in April 15th of last year.
April.
With the parks and that Corps of Engineers still notionally operates, is there more opportunity besides Cranes Mills? I'm thinking, Overlook Park, parks at the base of the dam, they're not even open weekends anymore. And I know that's maybe a federal budget issue, but is there an opportunity for you all to take over those so that they can be open 7 days a week and more hours than just 8 to 4 or whatever the limited hours are on weekdays?
So Overlook Park, because that is where the dam is and where the course headquarters is, my guess would be in the future that is never going to be on the table. I don't know that for sure. I will say that W.O.R.D is very interested to do whatever we can to expand and or maintain public access, and if that means more parks come on the table and we have the opportunity and the means to take them on, then that's a question my board of directors will seriously consider. At the same time, we believe in responsible growth, and we believe in keeping everything within our ability to take care of it. So we took on one park in 2020. It was pretty easy. We took on another in 21, and it was a bear. And so now it's taken us 4 more years to get to our third park, which is going on right now. So I don't know that I can fully answer your question, except to say that if there is an opportunity, we will definitely consider it.
If you don't, at least them operating whatever, is there a way to partner with and at least maybe provide people to, they don't need to be staff, but somebody needs to come open the gate and close the gate, and the Corps of Engineers just seems to refuse to keep them open for weekends. I mean, come on. So,
What I will definitely promise you, I have an excellent relationship with the local Corps of Engineers folks. I will absolutely have that conversation with them as far as what options are going forward.
Hey, Mike, I appreciate the presentation and explaining what you guys do, and appreciate all the good work that you do. I wonder if you could spend just a minute talking about the revenue side of the $4.5 million and how that's broken out, where that comes from. You've done a good job on the expense side. Just curious about the revenue side.
Sure. So actually, I think that 2025, $2.8 million budgeted was tax funds, and the remaining was park entrance fees and revenue concessions from the parks. The $2.8 million in tax funds comes from the categories I mentioned at the beginning, with 2 being river outfitters, lake equipment rentals, marinas, boat lodging. I will say that this year, with the drought and impacting both lake levels and river flows, and not to mention the tragic events that we had in July, river and lake revenue, direct revenues have been down, and the single largest contributor to our tax revenues this year has been lodging. So that's your large-scale lodging outfits, as well as your Airbnbs and vacation rentals.
How much is
Tube rental is a flat $1 per person. It's, I'm told that back in the 80s it was called a butt tax, because every buck I put on the river was a buck.
What is it?
So I don't know exactly this year, I'd have to look it up, but typically it's a couple $100,000 a year, sometimes as high as half. I'll expand even though you didn't ask me. I need to explain, I didn't go into this earlier. Tubing is the only part of W.O.R.D tax that's capped. It is a flat $1 per person regardless. Everything else that has user fee tax on it is at 3%. It used to be anywhere, we are capped legislatively at 5%, and it used to be anywhere from 3 to 5%. We recognize that tubing has a higher impact on our services than most other things that we collect tax on. So in 2021, the W.O.R.D Board of Directors voted to cut taxes on, across the board, down to 3%, except not impacting the tubing that stayed where it was.
Can I elaborate? So just from what you showed on the screen and talked about, and the major impact areas, it just seems like the services that you're providing for tubing at $1 a pop is probably, you're providing a lot more service than that dollar provides. I mean, you've got trash pickup, you've got porta potties, you've got ingress and egress. You're doing a lot of things, but not collecting a lot of revenue from that source. And have you considered that it might be time to do a look at that, or whether or not, because at the parks, you're getting $20 for an out-of-county visitor, and that helps contribute to everything else. I just think that you've got to be expense upside down on tubing, and maybe it's time to look at that.
So let me respond to that a couple of ways. First off, you're absolutely right about the parks, although I would like to point out it's only $5 per vehicle for Comal County residents. You gotta know your crowd. As far as the tax and the services goes, yes, tubing is probably the single highest impact on the river services that we provide, not the lake services certainly. However, if you look at it from an ancillary perspective, from lodging and camping, all of those people that are staying in the lodging and camping, a large number of them are also impacting the resource through tubing or other means. So it's not quite as clear cut as tubing equals cleanup.
Through the public access areas.
Through the public access and through the businesses. And
non-water amenities we were talking about. So up in southeast of DFW, there's a big wetlands, and there's a nesting pair of bald eagles, and they have a cam on the nest, and it is hugely popular for people to watch, checking every day, see how the chicks are doing, all that stuff. If you had a site like that in your area, would you know that? Have you done the surveys to know if you have some unique resource like that you could do something like that with?
I mean, I think that if we had something of that magnitude within the parks that we manage, then we absolutely would know about it. Dylan, do you disagree?
I don't. Per the Army Corps of Engineers too, they do annual inspections as well, and they come out and check everything out in the park. That's one of their main concerns, and we have policies and procedures in place is not to impact golden cheek warbler territory and habitat. To my knowledge, none have ever been sighted inside of either of our two parks, but if that were to change, then...
I'm thinking more of the river corridor, and one of the most magnificent times I've ever seen a bald eagle was at Canyon Lake. And it flew by just like 40 or 50 feet away. And so, but more like, in your more undeveloped areas, river corridor, up and down, but I think the question is, if you had a site like that, have y'all done the surveys that you would know?
No, sir, not to my knowledge. I don't believe we have.
I wouldn't expect you to.
Fair enough. But it's a very interesting idea, and if we did have a bald eagle's nest, man, I would love to know about it if we do something similar. That's really cool. So.
It's hugely popular.
Let me just offer, being involved with the birding community, they'll let you know. You go via eBird sites, I say we, they have eBird sites, etc. The word would be out pretty quick.
We did have a bird count this morning, actually, at surrounding parks.
But there are eagles in the area, the ones I know about are on private property. There are eagle nests in the area, I know of two, they're on private property. But if it were to show up in the parks, I would imagine you'd be seeing that pretty quick.
There you go, volunteer.
So I have a question about the Airbnbs. I once came to your office and you were gracious enough, I got an email list of, or an Excel sheet of Airbnbs, and so I could look in my neighborhood. But I could see that there are a lot more in my neighborhood than were on the list. How are Airbnbs or other, I guess it's all short-term rentals, how are they supposed to know that they're supposed to pay this tax?
That's a great question. A couple of things. A few years back, we sent, it's a challenge that we've had for years. We used to manually have to try and track every advertisement in the county to try and figure out who was liable for taxation. We also contacted the Realtors Association, and we're sending letters out to all realtors in Canyon Lake, letting them know to talk to their clients if they were looking to buy a home for an Airbnb. What we finally did, though, and it took about 3 years to pull it off, is we got Airbnb themselves to sign a contract with us that they would collect and remit all tax owed in the county on behalf of the individual homes.
So does it work also with like Verbo or any of the others?
We also did the same thing with Verbo, yes. We have 2 contracts with those 2, and Verbo is not just Verbo, it's the HomeAway family, which covers multiple websites and sub-companies.
I still think you're not getting a substantial number. I don't know whether it's, they may advertise them on Airbnb, but they also do it themselves. There's one in my neighborhood that I know, they don't list their W.O.R.D permit number, it's not on your website, and, it's now the state owner, so he may not know that he's supposed to, although I'm sure the local person he uses to manage it knows, but
People that run those try to go under the radar, because if you get caught doing that, your homestead,
Yep.
gone. You are now under a commercial
I mean,
tax.
they're out of state owners, they don't have a homestead at all.
I mean, a
so
lot of
they're-
people that do it, they're trying to fly
Yeah.
under that radar.
But there's a substantial number that are.
So I will agree with that point and say that this has been a challenging issue since I first started. We used to comb through, print out copies of every ad in Canyon Lake and make calls and then go to the tax assessor's site, find the mailing address for the individual if they were returning it. I've had people call me up and tell me to take my tax and stick it where the sun don't shine.
On the Airbnb part too, though, is you may be missing out if you're only doing 3%. The way I understand it, I don't have any relationship with them at all, so I don't know for sure, but I understand that Airbnb just charges a flat, I don't know what it might be, 15% for local taxes on every Airbnb across the country. And if, San Antonio charges 18%, then, they're collecting, the renter thinks they're paying 18% or 15, whatever the number might be.
I
And
can
you're
tell
only
you
getting
that that's
3%.
not been my experience. I've
Okay,
looked at Airbnbs from all
I've
over.
had-
They typically have a specific tax rate for that.
Okay.
Like Airbnb also aimed to deal with the state of Texas after they did with us to collect the 6% state comptroller hotel occupancy tax statewide.
Okay. Maybe it's not, maybe it might be one of these other smaller outfits that's more regional rather than national, but that's the way I understand it, that they just charge a flat fee for everybody in their region or wherever it is. And it's substantially more than what you collect. It's probably less than what San Antonio or Bexar County collects, but.
And I will take a look at that, but in my experience, that has not been the case, but I will take a look. I know that we've been around a while. Does anyone have any other questions? Keep in mind that I am always open, phone or email, as are these 2, to answer questions in our office. Our emails are up here on the screen. They're very simple. It's just first name at wordcc.com, wordcomalcounty.com. Give me an email, give me a call.
I just want to thank you for the street teams and all the videos they put out during the summer. They make doing social media so much fun. I look forward to them every week.
There's winter ones now too.
The reeling, the rolling and reeling. Y'all are doing great. I love that. I look forward to the videos.
We have a star of that first reeling on the river right here.
Yeah.
Still new to fly fishing, and that was legit. I did get caught in the tree, so that wasn't.
All right, I think we can do one more question.
Talking about that, kind of words probably formed to deal with the consequences of a lot of recreational use on the river and the lake, trash and law enforcement. But now that we've kind of entered a phase where a long time drought and occasional floods have probably hampered a lot of businesses. Obviously, we have. Is there any initiative or any mandate within W.O.R.D to help those businesses through an educational? Not through necessarily marketing, but education, because you have to offset media reports that the Guadalupe is completely dry, or it's full of snakes, or all the negative, I guess, stereotypes you're getting now. Not to mention the flood and that kind of impact. So, is there any kind of plan to help businesses educate the public that it still is a healthy river system, it's a great lake, but we're not getting the proper media exposure?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for asking that question. The social media that was just alluded to, we launched that with one of our goals being to be able to help the business community and educate the public. There's a lot of misinformation out there online, sometimes on the news, all over the place. This summer, with the tragedy and the flooding that went on, we learned a lot in a short period of time. It was rough for everybody all around, but one thing that we tried to do was control inaccurate media reporting by reaching out directly to the media outlets or to the Chambers of Commerce for Canyon Lake, New Braunfels, W.O.R.D to see if they had contacts that we could try and stem that tide a little bit. Also, we do have plans to continue on a social media front, showcasing businesses, showcasing the district. One of the reasons we started rolling on the river was the concept of having someone out standing or floating on the river in real time with a date. It's today's date. This is the flow right now. This is what it looks like. Don't believe everything you see on the news.
Mm-hmm.
We did have to do that very carefully. I'll just leave it at that for now. It was challenging this year.
Very cool. Well, let's give Mike and his team a round of applause.
Ryan, I need to throw one more thing out there because some people in the back will beat me up afterward if I don't. This year, we are proud to announce Canyon Lake has never had a full-on fireworks display over the lake on the 4th of July. This is the 250th anniversary, and we have inked a contract with a major fireworks vendor to shoot out fireworks on July 4th, and we are working out the viewing areas. It's not a cheap endeavor, and we are going to be seeking business sponsorships for that. So if anyone's sitting on a fat right pocket and wants to throw some money at it, great. But we are committed to doing it regardless.
Liberty on the lake.
The Guadalupe River is an iconic Texas river, and it is a huge part of our community. It defines our quality of life, improves the housing values of the houses we live in. It powers a $1.3 billion tourism economy every single year. And I just know that we all feel a whole lot better with the folks at W.O.R.D doing everything that they're doing. Let's give them one more round of applause. We got a swag bag for you, Mike. I also put a couple extra bandanas in there. So, again, thank you very much. We appreciate what you're doing. All right. Y'all have a good night, and we'll see you next time.